Hello orchid fans, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Guntare and this is my orchid channel. I've got a very exciting video for you today. This is going to be a care collaboration video with 12 other channels, so it's going to be very informative. So pace yourself, you can spend your whole day watching these videos. And these videos are going to be about seedling care. So as you can see, I've got here a few seedlings in front of me and I'll cover them all. But first of all, let me introduce all the other channels as well. And these are Ninja Orchids, Fernando Nascimento Orchids and Succulents, Tropical Plants Finland, Cheston's Orchids and More, Mad by Nature, Attainable Green, Danni's Orchid Journey, Toki World, Stephen Van Kempen Lewis, Orchids and Finbos, and Plants and Other Things. So as I said, quite a list. So feel free to go and check out their videos as well. If you're interested in young plants and seedlings and how to take care of them, I'm sure they'll have loads of tips for you, how to grow them in different environments, and how to kind of get them to survive, and give them the best chance. So let me begin with my tips. So let me introduce you to them all. I guess the smallest ones I've got is here. So this one here is, I deflasked this recently and I will link the video down below in the description if you're interested to have a look. I've got the whole playlist about these seedlings. I basically got a flask, so if you don't want to grow orchids from seed, you can actually just buy a flask which is ready to be deflasked and then just grow it on from there. So let me just take this pot off, and so you can see how tiny they are. So this is Stanopea oculata. These plants grow into huge orchids. They are usually pretty big. And yeah, I noticed, I think yesterday, that I think at least one of them, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so this one here is, you can see it's actually pushing out like a new growth. So that one might be okay. And then there is another one, which is this one here, this one with a big leaf. It's got a tiny bulb forming, and it's also got a new kind of growth as well coming out of it. So I think, out of this whole flask, there's maybe about 15 plants in here. That's how tiny they are. It's probably going to be maybe 3 plants and actually survive if I'm lucky. It might only be 1, it may be none. So I guess, be prepared for losing a lot of seedlings. It's not, unless you can provide them perfect conditions, it's not very easy, I think, to grow them on. It also obviously depends on what kind of orchid you grow. I never grown Stanopeas in my life, so it maybe is even more difficult for me to grow it from a seedling. But what I can tell you about it is, as you can see, the leaves are very thin, right? And they basically don't have any moisture storage, nothing in here. So they are a lot more sensitive to environment changes. So when I planted them in here first, and after a week or so, I started noticing these yellowing tips. And the tips are kind of drying out. And even though there is always, the media is always, as you can see, it is pretty moist right now as well. The tips are drying up. And my initial reaction was, okay, I need to cover it up. I need to, protect them a little bit. So that's what this pot is for. I put it on top so that they don't get as much kind of airflow going through them, because they're used to living in a jar, with no airflow, nothing. So I put this on like a dome to basically give them a little bit more protection, and the yellowing tips seemed to kind of stop. And I then started just kind of taking this plastic pot off even for a couple hours a day, and I can see the tips are drying up again. So I'm trying to be a bit more protective. So first tip for you when you're growing seedlings is watch them closely and react fast. So if you see that something is happening, don't just let them sit and do nothing, because they will go downhill very fast. You know, they don't have yet the mechanisms to protect themselves. So if they get too much light, you know, they'll just die in a day. So, you know, really just watch them very close and react quite quickly, and don't expose them to very harsh conditions. So be gentle, you know, try slow, and then, you know, you can try and keep increasing the light or the fertilizer and see what happens. You know, see if it likes it or not. It might allow them to grow faster, which is great, or it might burn them, so then just tone back down, you know. But yeah, react quickly to the changes. So these are kind of, you know, the very early stages, and they are very, very vulnerable. So I keep them at the front of my shelf so I can look at them all the time. I can see what's going on, and you know, I can actually kind of react quickly. But at the same time, you don't want to keep changing their environment as well. So I put them in here in this pot with some bark and ceramis, and with sphagnum moss layer on top, and then I just kind of gently put them in the moss for the roots to get hydration. And I'm not moving them from here, so everything I'm trying to change is with water or fertilizer or light, or, you know, adding maybe something extra to protect them more. But I don't just pull them all out of the media, put it in a new one. I'm not saying you can't do that, you absolutely can, but just bear in mind that even, you know, a mature orchid can get stressed about it and can go downhill and die. So the seedlings, they're even more sensitive, so just bear that in mind when you're kind of changing, you know, things up with them. And the other two seedlings I'll show you is, I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing them right, but they're Oceoclades, I think. One of them is Spatulifera, which is this one here, which is a bigger one. They're also called snake orchid. They look black and rotted and dead, but they're actually, that is their natural color. So they have to be black, and, you know, the leaves are kind of gray and brown. So and they have very beautiful patterning on the leaves as well. This one has a bit greener leaves. It is smaller. This is Perrieri. So they're both species. And yeah, as you can see, very tiny plants. So these have been deflasked by someone else about 4 or 5 months ago. But as you can see, they are a lot more mature than what I just showed you with Stanopea. So, you know, I can already say that these will be able to withstand more kind of harsh conditions, or if it doesn't like something, it's not going to go downhill straight away. This thingy here is it's starting, I think, to push out a new growth at the base right there. It's so tiny it may not even be visible. So again, I'm watching this very closely. I repotted them recently because I got it from someone else about a week ago maybe. So, you know, I am watching it very closely to make sure it's not unhappy, because it's, you know, it got different media now, so I just want to make sure it's okay. And same with this one. This one has got a slightly bigger new growth at the base of the pseudobulb. Again, it is pretty difficult to see, I think, but hopefully it's visible. And yeah, this one is smaller, but it's got a bigger new growth. So I think they both will be okay. Also, the fact that they've got pseudobulbs, that helps a lot. And the leaves are quite hard and sturdy. And that, you know, they are storing energy in here. So it is a bit easier as well to take care of them, I think, because if something goes wrong, at least they've got some kind of reserves to pull from and to try and survive. Whereas, you know, the Stenopeas I showed you, they also should have pseudobulbs. It's just, they're just too young. And, you know, one of them already has it, so I have very high hopes for it. Whereas the others, you know, they can go either way. Also, I would research the actual orchid. You know, how does the mature plant grow? You know, so for example, these ones, these are desert plants. They grow in Africa, in Madagascar. So they are not gonna want to be always moist or always damp. The roots want to dry out completely between waterings. And even though these are seedlings, I'm still trying to replicate that environment. So I'm not gonna give it a weeks of dry cycle, you know, of no water, but I still want them to get at least a day of kind of drier roots so that it, you know, it can kind of get what it would get in its natural environment. And then the last two is my Cattleya schilleriana. So this is also a seedling, but this is a lot more mature. As you can see, it's got quite a few growths, quite a few leaves, and it's got this new growth now with double leaves, and it should have 2 leaves on a growth usually. So that tells me that it is kind of getting more and more mature. So, and it's got all these nice pseudobulbs, and it's growing new roots in the media. So this seedling is already, it's still a seedling, it's still a very small plant. You know, it is far from a flowering size plant, but you know, I am quite confident with this. I'm treating this pretty much as a normal mature plant. I'm not really giving it any special care because it's doing pretty well. The one kind of adjustment I made is this newest growth here. I think it's now looking a little bit better, but when I put it in my kind of under my normal lights, the leaves started, they just became so dark and purple. So it didn't like that light, you know, that harsh kind of highlight. So I moved it away and moved it into a slightly different location where the light is not as harsh. And this last one, this is also Cattleya schilleriana. Basically, when I got it, and you can see I got it in a bottle. So when I got the plant, there were 4 in the same pot, and I separated them all out, and I planted, you know, the biggest one separately. So because I'm sure it will grow on, and it will be all good. But the other 3, I actually gave one away already because that one looked the best, so I'm sure it will do well as well. But these 2 are not as well established, so I put this kind of bottle on top, and you can see how much condensation is in here. So they are getting a lot more humidity than what they would if this bottle wasn't on it. You know, my room humidity is usually about 40–50%. So whereas here there is basically 100% humidity. So obviously, you know, they will like that a little bit better. And you will see that, you know, this looks completely different from this, right? So this is a very established plant, seedling, young plant, whereas these guys are very different. You know, they've got, the leaves are a lot thinner and smaller. The pseudobulbs are barely visible. There is barely any kind of pseudobulb, so they're not really storing any energy in there yet. Some of the leaves are kind of curling up and they might drop. So, you know, I need to protect them more, and that's why I've got this kind of plastic bottle on top. They're actually both got teeny tiny new growths coming up, so I still have hopes for them. But yeah, that's really my kind of care tips, you know. Just react fast, you know, watch them closely, don't be very harsh with them, you know, try and kind of be gentle, you know, if you're introducing them to a new environment or new setup, you know, new media, just don't go from one extreme to the other, and you know, try and kind of introduce things gently for them, and I think that will really help you and will really make the plants a bit happier. And also just kind of be prepared of losing some seedlings. It's a lot more difficult to grow seedlings than it is to grow mature plants. So yeah, enjoy and happy growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!